everybody. This is Dr. Alex Avila with Love University, and we're back. I'm an author, psychologist, and speaker. Every week we talk about how to love ourselves, others, and a higher nature, how to improve our finances, career, spirituality, relationships, and our happiness. And nowadays we're facing a big challenge with the coronavirus. People are staying home more isolated, and even lonely. Even in marriages, people are feeling lonely. And one of our missions at Love University is to help eradicate loneliness by the year 2025 through our community building and helping people. And even when you're married or in a couple, there are issues that can come up. For example, spending a lot of time together. People are having to spend more time maybe than they're used to, not working as much. And people are having more conflicts. They may realize that they're not as compatible as they thought. So with all that, we're bringing in two very special guests today that's going to help us kind of unravel the whole love, relationship, marriage dynamic. We have here Susie and Otto Collins, who are married spiritual partners for life. They're breakthrough relationship coaches, authors, and speakers. They have been featured on Huffington Post, Marriage Magazine, Yahoo Shine, and eHarmony. And their motto is, love is your natural default. Welcome, Otto and Susie, to the show.
Thanks, Alec. It's so great to be with you, and so great that you've invited us on to share some ideas with your audience, yes. And we're just grateful to be here.
Definitely. Now, the term default, when I think of the word default, I think of an automatic mechanism, things that you fall back into automatically. And I'm thinking that love would be great, but I'm thinking a lot of people fall back into self-interest and self-concern more than love. So how does that happen? How do you create a love as a default mechanism?
Well, we know that is what happens so much, is people get together and they fall in love and it's so exciting and wonderful. And then reality hits, all those differences, and they start doing this, hitting each other. Yeah. And we're saying that love doesn't have to be a struggle, because it's really what's underneath all that.
Yes.
And when we allow our busy minds to just settle, then we can get to that point that's always there, that's always running through us.
You see, one of the things that I've seen in my world, and what I try to do when I'm working with my coaching clients and the people that I talk with, is that our nature is love. That's our nature. That's our true core essence. But what happens is we have all this thinking that gets in the way of that. A thought that we believe about how how we separate ourselves from our partners, how we, other people in our life, maybe how, we're superior to them, inferior to them, all kinds of different things. And that creates distance and separation. But we believe that the default is love.
I like that. So love could be an automated mechanism that we can get programmed, or maybe it is already programmed. We need to activate it. We need to get it out there. Now, you guys have a fascinating story I want to get to. Otto, you basically, I think you said when your child was 8 years old, you came and told your wife at 15 years, I want a divorce. And then around the same time, Susie, you did the same thing to your husband of 30 years. And then a couple of months later, you guys met and you called it a soulmate experience or something. And you've been happily married for 23 years. Now, this is a fascinating story, but some people might think, well, you guys didn't wait very long. That could be a rebound marriage. Didn't you guys need to heal yourself first? So how did that happen with you guys?
Well, it did seem really like, this made no sense, because I'm 16 years older than him, too. And that came into the whole thing. And what we decided was that, if we approached this union, this relationship, the same way we did our marriages, yes, this would end up the same way that our marriages ended up.
Yes.
And so we, from the very beginning, said, okay, what are we going to learn here? How are we going to learn to talk to one another, be with one another differently, so that normal, that love that's always inside comes out.
Yes. But you think you guys should have waited more time, or you think 2-3 months? How long were you guys dating before you got married, actually?
Well, there was probably only about 4 months
Wow.
between the time that I left my first marriage
Yes.
till when we actually began moving in together.
Okay. So it's a whirlwind courtship. Do you recommend that, or does it
We
happen?
didn't get married for a year.
Oh, okay, okay. But you got
Yeah.
together pretty quickly after the, I guess,
Yeah.
divorces or the separations.
Yeah, and the important piece here is that there's no right or wrong in any, so society says, oh, you shouldn't do this.
You should wait a year to get
Yes,
in a relationship.
exactly.
Do all your healing,
Yes.
Yeah. And so there's no right way, there's no wrong way, but you got to do what's right for you. And yeah, we had people tell us, oh, well, this is a rebound relationship and you guys are crazy and all like that. But, well, we're on year 23.
So it's working out. Okay. Okay.
So far.
So we're
And with an attitude that you're going to listen to one another and do things differently and open your heart to one another.
Yes.
So when you have that, it doesn't matter how much time.
That makes sense.
So that's what happened.
Yeah,
with
the
us.
harmony. If the harmony is there, compatibility and all those things, and of course the mindset has to be there.
Yeah.
Now, I know you said you struggle with weight and financial, emotional issues. Has she helped you with that, or how's that going now?
Well, I think that certainly she helps me with everything. But what I've found is that, and it also depends on, the definition of struggle. It's like, how does that get in the way of life? What's your life experience like?
Right.
Yeah. I weigh more than probably what the weight tables say you should. Right. And
I think a lot
in the past, financial things may have been an issue.
Yes.
And my life is really good. Oh. And that's the thing that people sometimes don't see is that our story, I call it, we get stuck in the shoulds.
Yes.
I should weigh less. I should have more money. My wife should do this. I should do that. And then when you settle into what's good about the present moment, what's wonderful now, there's always going to be things that you're going to want to change about yourself.
Yes.
And sometimes those things change. Sometimes they don't.
Right.
But it really is important to look at what is going on right now in the present moment. That's the key.
Yes.
And a challenge for me has been or was not trying to change him.
Yes.
Because he has eaten differently than I have. And I would have a struggle inside and say, oh, he's got to eat this nutrition, these nutritious foods and all this and that. And I had to just give it all up.
Right. So let him be himself. I mean, you can guide him a little bit in healthy things.
Right.
But you're not trying to control his ways
Exactly.
and other. Now, you guys do talk about magic relationship words, which is kind of a cool thing to think about. You have some pretty good programs, I notice, on your site. You teach people all these love and relationship skills. So that's kind of nice. What are the words you need to say? For example, let's say someone says to the other, you never listen to me, you're a jerk. What's the magic word that you can say to that person that has that angry attitude?
Well, if somebody said, you never listen to me,
you're a jerk.
You're a jerk. Well, first of all, I probably would do nothing in that moment.
Oh, okay. Because you would be angry in return to what she said to you?
Well, you got to start tuning into, is what that other person's saying, is that true?
Even part of it.
So you got to see, is that true?
From their point of view.
From their point of view.
Yeah.
And so one thing there's what you don't want to do is you don't want to get into the, what we'll call the gotcha game. Well, you're a jerk too. You're a blah, blah, blah.
Right. Resentment.
So then you got war. So what I might say, as far as if you're talking about, the magic relationship words.
Yes.
I mean, if I'm in a really good space and I'm clear that there's a part of what they might be saying might be true, I might be acting like a jerk in that moment. I might even say something to them like, well, tell me more about that.
Right. So kind of a curiosity, or
Tell me more.
in Aikido, the martial arts, you kind of diffuse people by joining their energy. So you might say, I see that you're thinking that I'm a jerk, and sometimes I do that. But of course, most of the time people are angry. I mean, if they say that to you, you're probably going to get angry back, right, Otto? So you would take a timeout kind of thing? Would you take go work out or something? Or?
Definitely timeouts. If you are finding yourself elevated in your emotions, that's not the time to talk.
Yes, exactly.
And it's just common sense that we forget.
Definitely.
And what I help my coaching clients do is see, okay, is your defense, when you start defending yourself, does that get you what you want?
Good point.
Does that really, and I mean, I have coaching clients who do a 2.5-hour back and forth gotcha thing.
I see.
And
that's pretty tough. They escalate the anger.
Yeah. It is. And exactly.
It's
so
crazy.
You've got to see, oh, wait a minute, that isn't getting me what I want.
Exactly. Because Gottman talked about diffusers. Gottman, the marriage psychologist, he says, like maybe a humor or something that you say that can kind of diffuse that among some couples. Couples that are happily satisfied. They have something like their own inner communication when things get really heated. Now, the other thing I want to talk to you about, and this is kind of this along the lines, is you say to be an ally instead of an adversary with your partner. And the honeymoon stage, everything they say makes you laugh, and then later on, everything they say makes you angry. For some couples, unfortunately, the conflict. And I think, Susie, you were even saying that in your first marriage, you were kind of critical with your husband, and then you started being critical to Otto. Mm-hmm. And then you asked yourself, am I going to be this critical to my best girlfriend as I am to him? And you said you wouldn't be that way because you would be more accepting. But then I was thinking, shouldn't you be more highly expectations for your husband? Shouldn't he have a higher standard to treat you a certain way than your girlfriend, let's say?
Not necessarily. And, when you really stop and drop into, this person is a person I love, and this person is my friend, and I don't need to be critical here. I need to find out more of why he or she feels that way, and drop into a place of love.
What were you critical about to Otto? Otto seems like a wonderful guy. What could be critical about?
He is a wonderful guy. Well,
is he a little bit messy or something, or leaves stuff around the house?
Yeah. I mean, there were, When we got together, now he's much better now, but he had Piles disease. Okay.
Piles.
Piles.
Okay.
And just things that I wasn't used to.
Okay.
And any couple has different ways of doing things. Like who's going to wash the dishes, after a meal, or how do you prepare a meal, or and these are all things to not be critical of and be okay with differences. I think that was one of the biggest things that we had to learn was, oh, you are so different from me.
Yes.
Oh, okay. What can I learn from you?
Yeah. I like that because that kind of really correlates with the work I do with love types. I wrote a best-selling book called Myers-Briggs Compatibility and Personality Types. And you guys talk about love through differences, which is actually a very fascinating concept. Because in the love types approach, we talk about the dating masquerade. People have on a mask when they first meet each other, and they try to impress each other. So the introvert person may want to go out a lot and seem like they're an extrovert, and the extrovert may want to stay in. But then once you get comfortable with the marriage, then they revert to their typical styles. Mm-hmm. And then they have conflict sometimes if they don't respect each other. And the other problem is that initially you might be attracted to the opposite, the complementary style. For example, the external energy extrovert person gets the person out of the house who's introvert, and the introvert calms you down. But then you start to argue about those things that you apparently liked. Now, I have a feeling you're an extrovert, you're more introverted, Otto. Is that correct in the energies?
I think I've trained myself to be an extrovert.
You trained to be, okay, but your internal energy, where you get your energy is inside.
I'm an introvert by nature.
Yes, definitely.
And if you've been trained in all this, that the difference between an introvert and an extrovert is how you. So an introvert gets energy. They feel more power, more passion, more excitement, more life
Internally.
Internally. The external, they're the life of the party, and they feel better, all like that. I'm an introvert by nature.
Yes.
But
Susie, you're an extrovert by nature, would you say?
No, I'm an introvert.
Oh, good. Okay. Oh, you're compatible. Okay. Because you come off as kind of like very excitable at the moment.
Oh, I am excitable.
Okay. But I mean, you probably get burned out after a period of time as an introvert, right? You got to recharge your batteries.
Right. And I love the one-on-one.
Okay. Interesting. Because that's one issue that, people that are a little bit different, like you said, they try to change a person or they don't accept them.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another example. For example, in the Myers-Briggs, you may have heard there's the spontaneous and the structured person. And the structured person likes to organize in schedules, and the other person's spontaneous. That's you. Okay, I can see.
He's spontaneous.
Yes, and actually, I can see that. And you told me about the story where you wanted to create a budget for a project or something, and he didn't like it because he felt limited about it. And you said you're a librarian or something, and you like budgets and stuff like that. So tell us about that story. How did that work out?
That was one of the points where we really hit heads early on, and because we had started our business together.
Yes.
And to me, being a library director, I got a yearly budget that I could spend on books or whatever, which was wonderful. It's like Christmas.
Yes.
And so budgets meant nothing. And when I'd bring it up to Otto, he'd like go with this. and I couldn't figure it out.
Okay.
Until I listened. So as long as I was critical, well, why aren't you paying attention to this? Why can't we do this? As long as I was critical, I couldn't hear what was on his mind.
Yes. And Otto, you felt that you were being constrained by the budget as like too limiting or something? What was your idea about it?
Well, we, every single one of us, we make up a meaning about what certain words mean. We do that with every word that comes into our life. I had a different meaning about the word budget than she did. And now I'm not triggered at all by the word budget. And here's the important thing I think about all this stuff that we're talking about. We're talking about, Myers-Briggs. We've studied the Enneagram extensively.
Yes.
All of that stuff's the personality.
Right.
Which is after the physical form. When you drop down into the soul level, that is where the deep, rich, spiritual soul connection is. That's what we're talking about. That's always there. You're going to clash at the personality level.
Right.
But if your desire is to connect at a deeper level and you keep going back to that of where you really, truly connect, that is where the magic is in love and in relationships. Everybody disconnects from time to time. We're all different.
Definitely. And you talk about the connection point. You mentioned the gratitude patrol, where you find things you're grateful for about your partner and things you like about them, and then focus on the accentuate the positive. And there used to be something called the Losada ratio, where they say 5 good things for every 1 negative, which predicts a successful relationship. But the problem is people do the other way around. They say 5 negative things for every positive. So they might say like, you're a lousy lover, you're a terrible parent, you're dumb and disorganized, but you make good enchiladas. So obviously, they're not going to be happy with that.
Yeah.
But if you reverse it, you say you're a great lover, you're a great spouse, you're smart, you're wonderful, but you're a little bit messy around the house. I mean, that might be okay, a little better, right? So how do you guys do that? How do you guys find the positives at all times as much as you can with your partner?
Well, number one, you look for them.
Yes.
So you look for them, and if you are conscious about so it all goes back to, what is your desire for your relationship with this person? Yes. And if your desire is to have a terrible relationship, if your desire is to have conflict, go ahead, have at it. Tell them how awful they are, 5 times compared to how amazing they are once. Yes. So it depends on what you're interested in. And, I've been the other way in a relationship where things were not that great. And I've been in a relationship now with Susie where it's pretty amazing. And that is what we do, is we focus on the good, the beautiful, and what we love, like, and appreciate about each other. And that's not to say that there's not conflict or not things that,
thoughts that come in.
Thoughts that come in. But that's where the focus is. And that's where people kind of, get it. People think that if you're in a relationship with somebody that you're married to or in a committed relationship, they think that's a license to beat the other person up and
Right.
to find fault with them
Or
constantly.
trying to change them. It's just
Oh,
called
yeah,
too
that's
much.
the big deal.
Yeah.
I can make you better.
Yes, that's the idea, especially after, which is very hard. Now, you say something, Susie, interesting. You say that you want to have an attitude of curiosity about the person that you're with. I mean, they may be different from you, their personality or their style. And the idea is to have more of a, I guess, an empathetic idea. So it's not just how are you wrong, but what can I learn from you? You say is very important. And one thing you say, I think, is tell me more about that. And that's
That's the magic words.
the magic words. Oh, hey, we got them. Okay. Tell me more. And we had Hendricks on the show. Have you heard of Harville Hendricks and Helen Hunt, married couple? So they talk about reflective listening, like repeating kind of back what the person said and then say, tell me more about it. It's a very calculated approach, but does that work, or are people's emotions too violent or caught up in that?
Well, what I found, especially with coaching clients and with me, with Otto,
Right.
when I just stop and say, can you tell me a little bit more about that? Like a practical example is we have a workbench in our garage and it piles up. And
Okay. Uh-oh. That's criticism, right?
I used to like to go out to yard sales and bring things back. And I'd say, instead of saying, oh, why are you bringing something back again? We don't have room.
Right.
It's like, oh, can you tell me more about what your idea is about this? How you want to use it, or what is it that?
So instead of making me wrong, she's exploring. She's wanting to find out.
Wow.
Maybe I really do have a plan for this.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't.
Exactly. So it's kind of a place of love where you're willing to really appreciate, understand. So one of my definitions of love is a deep understanding and embracement of another as yourself, which is really kind of an empathetic approach, which is maybe rare for some people, but it's kind of a very powerful idea, right? That you really want to truly understand and embrace their differences.
Sure.
And of course, find the similarities as well. But you also mentioned something, Otto and Susie, that what if there's a huge difference that may be a deal breaker? So what if one partner wants children desperately, the other one does not even adopt? Or there may be two separate religions that really conflict. What do you do in those cases? I know you mentioned you different political or something like that, political styles, which maybe I know couples can tolerate that, but what could be a huge difference that doesn't work? As far as you know, that maybe they can't stay together.
Well, the only time that something doesn't work is when it's a true deal breaker and the people aren't interested in stopping, slowing it down, and listening for their inner wisdom to shine through. Because we all have an inner wisdom that always is there, always available to us, that will guide us and help us come up with the best answers in any life situation, including conflict in relationships.
Otto, I want to have children no matter what, and no, you don't. Are we going to get divorced, Otto?
I would say that let's talk about this. Let's
and see how important it is.
I want kids. I don't want to talk about it. I want kids.
So
what do you say to that, Susie?
So I want to address this just for a second before we go to Susie.
Okay.
And that is that I want to slow it down. That's what any couple should do in a situation like that. Pema Chodron once said in one of her recordings that we listened to, don't bite the hook. Don't bite the hook. That's one of the worst things you can do in an emotionally charged conversation. Don't bite the hook. And what that means is wait, slow it down, and then talk about it together. Find out what they want. Find out what you want, and find out if there's another alternative that could be even better.
Okay, let's say it's been 5 years we've been talking about this, Otto. No resolution. Now what?
You have to find out if it's truly a deal breaker.
Okay, so could it be a deal breaker, though, at some point? Is it possible?
Sure.
It is possible.
Okay.
Yeah, my husband and first husband, I was married for 30 years.
Yes.
And it was that we both knew that, okay, our time together was done.
Okay.
We both wanted different things.
Yes.
And so it was a loving, natural break.
Yes.
There was no, no hard feelings. No, it was just time. And so people, you're using the I want to have kids and you don't, kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah, example. And there reaches a point where both people know, they'll know, okay, it's time now.
Right. But it sounds like you're pretty optimistic, both of you, in terms of saving the marriages overall.
If somebody wants to save a marriage,
yes,
they absolutely can. The key is, what is your commitment to? Is your commitment to keeping yourself separated, distant, and presenting the other person as the enemy, someone to fight against? Or is your true desire to build the relationship into something as special, as loving, and as beautiful as it can be? So it depends on your true intention. If you want to build something special, you absolutely can. You got to want it.
I see. Because originally, I think there's someone in the political world who supports one candidate strongly, the other one doesn't, and they can get into a lot of problems with that within themselves, right? But you think you can work it out, in that sense?
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, there's a lot of division now, of course.
Yes.
That's going on.
I mean, Susie likes dark chocolate, and I like milk chocolate.
Right, so that's okay, right? You don't fight about it.
That's okay. And there was a time that there was one particular candidate that I liked and Susie didn't.
Yes.
And she at one time tried to change me about that and talk to me about that. And it's like, I'll vote for whoever I want, but that doesn't change my love for you.
That makes sense. That's not mean the unconditional love kind of thing. Now, here's the idea. Within humans and animals, we can see unconditional love. We can see it between a parent and a child, but we may not see it in adult human relationships. Do you think that's possible to have this love without expectation, unconditional love? And do we need to have that in adult relationships?
Well, I think you need to have unconditional love for yourself.
Okay, number one.
Yourself first.
Yes.
And then you'll know. You'll know, and what happens may not look like unconditional love for somebody else.
Yes.
If that love for you says, it's time to move on.
That makes sense.
And it may not look like unconditional love, but it is.
So you do believe that? Some people are cynical about it, and some people believe it can be done, having this unconditional love for your mate, shall we say. What do you think, Otto? Is it possible?
So it depends on your definition of unconditional love. So if your definition of unconditional love is, I'm going to love you no matter what, I'm going to stay with you forever no matter what.
Right.
I'm never going to try to change you. Whatever comes my way is going to be perfect.
Okay.
That's unconditional love. Most people can't and won't do that.
Because we're human.
Okay, so you think it is difficult. Okay, spiritually you can do it, right?
Yeah, possible, but we in the human form, most people aren't willing to do it. What we call unconditional love for most people is really, I'm going to love you unconditionally as long as you do what I want.
Exactly. Well, I'm thinking of the political example, Kellyanne Conway, right, who's advisor to the president. Looks like she was getting a divorce. Her husband was totally against the president. And then she had to resign her post, and I think her daughter wanted to run away or something like that because of the conflict in the marriage.
Well, that'll get your attention, won't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll get your attention.
So what do you think of that? Is that some kind of irreconcilable difference in that case? So what do you think if someone has those extreme views from each other?
Here's the thing. We can never know what's going on inside the four walls inside their house. Yes. We can only know what's going on and what's being presented in the media, which may or may not be true. But based on what you just said, which I've also seen in the media, if my child was going to run away because mom and dad were never there and they were at odds with each other, that would get my attention, and I probably would quit my job too.
Okay, because you do have unconditional love for your daughter, I would imagine, right? For your child, typically speaking, parent to child.
Absolutely.
Yes. Now the other thing is, okay, here's one true or false. You don't need to work on your relationship, and part two of that is, lasting love is not a goal, but you say moment by moment love is. So tell us about those two things. Those are interesting things. It's kind of going against the typical viewpoint. So do you have to work on things, or is it natural?
Work. work looks like it's hard
Yes.
work.
Right.
We have to strain and strain, you know.
Yes.
No,
So you don't have to work.
we found just the opposite.
Wow.
When you calm down and you allow things to settle, that's not work.
Wow.
And it also depends on your definition of work.
Ah.
You know, is it work to open your heart to your beloved when you're tempted to lash out at them in anger? Is it harder to do that, or is it harder to get divorced? It depends on your definition of hard work. Is it harder to say yes to going out and having a nice dinner when you may be tired? Or is it easier to stay disconnected and keep your heart closed to them?
Right.
So it depends on
long term versus short term, right? So short term might be easier, but the long term is going to hurt you more if you don't communicate and do those things.
It can even be painful in the short term.
Good point. And you don't believe in lasting love, I guess you're saying, right?
Well, the whole idea of lasting love
the quote unquote
is
lasting love.
Yeah.
Well, lasting love is when you have love one moment at a time that then goes on for a long period of time.
Okay. Right. So you say it's a byproduct of your everyday kind of love, the lasting love.
Yeah, because what we found is that people lose themselves as the years go on, and they may still be married, but they've lost their connection. And when you really focus on connecting one moment at a time, you don't lose that. I mean, it can evaporate for just short period of time, but you don't lose that.
Definitely. And I think one thing I really love about your work is you have this phrase that kind of goes through it, and it is be love. We say be love, and you're talking about from the first hello to the last goodbye as you leave the earth, with your mate. And you also say love yourself, and we talk about this at Love University, love yourself, others, and a higher nature. So loving yourself in an authentic way. And as you speak to your beloved, you remember that they're your beloved, right? They're not just some person you're talking to, but they're a special, like I said, soul connected person. And you also say, well, what am I about to say bring me closer or will apart from my soulmate or my mate? So tell us a little about be loved. That's a beautiful concept, to be loved.
Well, to me, it's just showing up in every moment. It's something as simple as when, if you're apart during the day, which a lot of people aren't apart now, they're at home together, but actually look at the person in their eyes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And say,
look at each other right now in your eyes.
I know.
Tell me, what do you see? What do you see in his eyes right now?
Yeah. Oh, I see love.
And Otto, what do you see in her eyes?
She's totally beautiful in all ways.
Wow.
And there's a spark and there's a passion there. I mean, I know her at a deeper level than I believe anybody.
Of course.
And, I see below just the Susie that we see.
That's beautiful. So you'll see to the soul, right? The eyes, into the soul. And and part of that, I think, is, empathy. And that's something that people don't really talk a lot about, these kind of things. Empathy, putting yourself in their shoes, seeing their world through their eyes. And, the Newlywed Game, you may have heard about that one, the TV show, that's, I think, still going on. And they ask people about, what is your partner like? And a lot of people don't even know what they like. So they don't really know them that well. But you're talking about, knowing your partner very well, you're saying, like going deep within. This is an important part of what you're saying. To ask them questions, and get to know them.
Yeah. And I have women who come to me for coaching that their partner is very closed and won't, say a lot of these things that you're talking about, won't talk.
Right, exactly.
And when we really get down to it, it's that there are missed opportunities that happen because they happen fast, because a lot of times the woman, and I know I'm stereotyping, but this is, a lot of what I've seen is very verbal. And she's talking and, what do you think about that? And he's not saying much of anything.
Right.
So it's calming down and allowing the space for him or her to actually answer you and talk.
Yes, definitely.
And when there's one little thing that he or she says, jump in there and say, oh, can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Definitely. But one of the hardest things for people to do, especially if they're the feeling personality, is not take it personally, to be more non-reactive. And you strike me as a feeler, Susie. Is that right? Are you an emotional kind of person?
Yeah.
You're more of a logical person, Otto. You're a thinker personality.
I'm both, actually.
Oh, okay.
So I feel at a very deep level.
I see what you're saying.
And I also think things through at a
Logically
deeper
speaking.
level.
Okay.
Yeah, I do.
Because you do have the thinking versus feeling dynamic, and sometimes 1/3 of male are feelers and 1/3 of females are thinkers, so it can go two ways. But I remember you were saying that at one time he was doing some kind of computer repair work, and he was speaking to you in a harsh tone, Susie. You took it personally, right? I mean, feelers do that, right? Yeah, and then you ask yourself, let me be curious about him. Why is he reacting? And you realize that he was, I guess, insecure about the work he was doing. And then
when I gave him the space
yes.
to actually delve into that himself,
Yes.
instead of me saying, don't use that tone of voice with me,
Yes.
which is what happens.
Okay.
And we jump on it, we get defensive.
Yes.
And when I don't know why, but I just slowed it down and okay, I'm just curious why, what were you thinking of in that moment? And that gave him the space to consider, oh, I'm feeling insecure here.
Yes. Well, the thing is, that's nice to say, but what if you're feeling people take everything personally? You say, don't take it personally, but that's their nature. So how do you, you're talking like a logical way to pull back, but how do you do it? You're hurt as a feeler.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you get to that point of view where you can be so logical about it?
Well, you got to get past that.
Practice.
And see, well, did that do me any good to react like that?
The big
really?
Okay. But it kind of felt good to yell at him a little bit. Didn't it feel good to yell at him? I mean, like in a negative excitement way at the beginning.
Because then he got angry.
Oh, okay.
Even angrier.
So immediately he got angry too. Okay.
So this goes right back to the core of,
yes.
Is what I'm doing going to bring me closer to or further from what it is I want?
Exactly. But
that's the place you come back to.
Yes, because there is what we call negative excitement. There's a little thrill when you get angry. Have you noticed that? A little bit of vengeance. There's that little bit, which is short term, right? And obviously it's going to hurt you long term. But a lot of people
it's a real thrill when you pay when you write that check to the divorce attorney.
Well, there you go, exactly. Or something something breaks on the wall.
That's a bigger one.
Exactly.
That's a big thrill.
Right. But people need to sacrifice that negative initial, whatever it is, the one-upmanship, right? To be able to say, what is a long-term benefit, like you're saying, of being calmer and more peaceful?
So I see it also as a short-term benefit. How can we stay in love in this moment?
Even though we're triggered.
Yes.
So how can we get back to a place of love and connection?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So one of the things I really found in my world is this moment. This is what keeps our connection alive. And for the people that really stay connected over the long term, more often than not, they're looking at how can I stay connected? How can I love you in this moment? Because here's what I've found is this moment is all we ever have. This moment.
Exactly. That's beautiful.
That's it. And when you take your focus off of that, you're gone. I mean,
yes, love moment by moment is a beautiful. I think I like that. That's kind of almost an Eastern approach, but looking at the power of now, which is powerful. Now the other thing is, what if you are so loving and kind and sensitive, and they abuse that? You mentioned the term doormat. They treat you very poorly. So should you direct your energy somewhere else, loving energy, or how do you deal with that part of it when you're dealing with someone who's maybe even abusive to you?
Well, this goes back to loving yourself. And I have, coached women who are in this kind of situation, and it is loving yourself, because you have to see, oh, wait a minute, I don't need to be treated like this. I'm worth more than that.
Definitely. You have to be clear about your own boundaries. What is love? What is loving to you? What's the most loving act you can do? You would not put up with that from somebody. You wouldn't. If your own self-talk was that, you would recognize, well, this is not a good idea. It's also not a good idea to put up with negative, nasty self-talk from somebody else, even if it's somebody else that claims to love you.
That's pretty powerful. Some people end up what we call codependence, or other people that are vulnerable to try to rescue the other person, but that's not being loving to yourself. Right? So you're hurting yourself.
Yeah, and it's never a good idea to rescue somebody else. That never works out.
This is wonderful stuff. I mean, I really loved having you guys on the show so far, and I can see you're a very loving couple. You're kind of almost yin and yang. I see two different energies, but it's very complementary. You got the certain spark, and then very thoughtful and very deep in spiritual ways, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, we love being on your show. Thanks for inviting us.
Yeah. And I'm going to say two things that I think summarize some of your work, and maybe you can add a third one. So first of all, it is be love, which is internal, right? You love, you are loving. Love in every moment. I need one more. Tell me one more that summarizes your work.
Well, I think the thing that summarizes our work more than anything is love is your nature. That's who we are at our core, at our depth. And the only thing that ever gets in the way of that is what we mistakenly believe in a moment when we make real. That's all that's ever going on is just what we're believing in the moment. And a lot of times that takes us away from the love, but we can always come back to that as our core. Love is our nature. That is something you can't get away from.
Yeah. So I can see the three parts now. Love is our nature is recognition. Then be love is the action. And then love in every moment is a reaction. So I think we got it.
Yeah.
Well said.
Thank you. Well, now I'd love to hear more about. Now, where can people hear more about you? Do you guys are doing coaching and tapes? Tell us a little bit about what you guys do and your website.
You can go to our website, susieandotto.com, SUSIEANDOTTO.com. Ton of free resources there on our website. We've got a blog that's got hundreds of articles on it. We've just started a podcast a short while back, so we've got quite a few podcast episodes that we've started. YouTube, you can find us on YouTube, a lot of videos there. So we do coaching. We've got books, courses, programs, and we're just trying to make a difference in our corner of the world. And so if there's something about what we've said, hopefully, the folks will reach out to us and tap into more of what we're offering.
Definitely. Tell us the website one more time, Otto and Susie. The website.
Susie and Otto, it's SUSIEANDOTTO.com. SusieandOtto.com.
Okay, great. We'd love to have you on again at Love University in the future and talk more about these great topics. Until next time, thanks you guys for being on the show, and loving energy to you guys as well for a wonderful marriage.
Thank you.
Thank you much.
Thanks.
Blessings and love to you.
Bye
now.
Bye-bye. And that was our interview with Susie and Otto, a married couple that does relationship coaching and helps many people find love in their relationships. And that idea that first you recognize that love is your nature, be love, and then be loving in every moment. So that actually is a wonderful philosophy. And I believe anyone that does that, and you Love University students, I suggest you practice that this week, to recognize that you have loving energy inside you, a loving nature. You can become that externally, and also you can do that in every moment that you're with a love partner or anyone else that you come into contact with. Again, if you want to contact us on Love University, you want to be on the show, you have a question, you can reach us at loveuniversity.love, 310-226-8090, and loveuniversitylove@gmail.com. We're starting a love type matching program where you can actually come on the show and find your compatible soulmate based on the love types approach and meeting the right kind of person for you. And if you want to follow us, you can do so on Twitter and Instagram at Love Letter U Podcast. Like us on Facebook at Love University Podcast. And of course, subscribe to us on Podbean, iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud. This is Dr. Alex Avila. So Love University students, please put away your notebook, your iPads, your phones, and we'll see you next time. Love University.